or the guys who were caught and charged with his murder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it obviously happened in like a super tumultuous time in American history.
Right.
A year after Kennedy was assassinated?
Yeah.
65, so what, Kennedy
No,
was...
Kennedy was assassinated in 63.
November 63, okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously Martin Luther King, and then Malcolm X. Now I know, unlike Martin Luther King, the civil rights leader, who had basically pissed off a bunch of white people, Malcolm X pissed off a bunch of black people as well, and especially people in the Nation of Islam.
Yeah, he short summary, Malcolm X was born Malcolm Little, and born Malcolm Little. He had grew up without a father. His father was a preacher who was supposedly killed by the Ku Klux Klan. He was a criminal. He was sent to jail for 10 years for robbery, and during jail he found Islam through the Nation of Islam through his brother. He ends up joining the Nation of Islam and moving up to becoming a minister in Temple No. 2, New York, and eventually becoming the national spokesperson. Because of him, thousands of people joined the Nation of Islam because of his voice. But people started getting jealous within the Nation of Islam because of his success and thought that he would eventually take over the Nation of Islam from Elijah Muhammad, who was then leading the Nation of Islam. After Kennedy was assassinated, Malcolm X made a speech titled that Kennedy's assassination didn't really matter to him because it was a chick. Well, not didn't matter to him, but it was the chickens coming home to roost that the white people's violence against black people would now come home to their backyard. Even though he was told not to say anything about it. He was suspended 90 days. He found that the suspension was not going to
silence him.
He wasn't going to be lifted. And also during that time, he found that Elijah Muhammad had been having extramarital affairs and children out of wedlock with other women that were not his wife.
Yeah, wasn't Elijah Muhammad just like a super scuzzy dude?
Kind of, a little bit.
Like not only the extramarital stuff, but like he was corrupt, right? He took a lot of money.
Yeah, he supposedly him. Well, mostly his sons, and even the documentary goes into this. They pretty much embezzled a lot of money.
Wait, who's Farrakhan? Is it one of his sons?
No, Minister Farrakhan was not of his sons. Louis Farrakhan had joined the Nation of Islam later.
Okay.
He was just a minister.
Okay.
And eventually became a leader, but that's a long story. But
that's another podcast.
Yeah, I did mention it a little bit in my Scientology Part 2 podcast. So if you go back and listen to my Scientology 2 podcast when I talked about the Church of Scientology joining forces with the Nation of Islam and then paying Minister Louis Farrakhan millions of dollars to pretty much go out and push off L. Ron Hubbard's fake ass fucking Dianetics shit and getting people audited and taking money from people who don't have it. But
side note, yeah.
So that's a side note. Yeah, he was. His sons were making. Malcolm was bringing thousands of people into the Nation of Islam because it's a church. People donate. They were pretty much taking the money, almost embezzling the money because there were businesses they were opening up, and they were skimming off the top of them. So they were making a lot of money hand and foot. And Malcolm really didn't know about that until we found out about it later. So after he was suspended, his suspension wasn't going up, going to be lifted. Elijah Muhammad, all these extramarital affairs, the backstabbing they were doing with Malcolm X was introduced to Cassius Clay, who later became Muhammad Ali. They were good friends, and the backstabbing they were doing against them to break up their friendship. So Malcolm was like, I'm out of here, and formed his own civil rights organization. But he started to tell people about the wrong Elijah Muhammad was doing.
He's definitely ruffling some feathers.
He was ruffling a lot of feathers, and it was back and forth, and there was a lot of threatening on the part of we're going to kill Malcolm X. So, yeah, it eventually culminated on February 21st, 1965. So,
kind of going over what some of these articles are talking about. So, essentially, this documentary is posing three main questions.
Yeah.
One, was the FBI behind the infamous assassination? Two, was the white power structure in America, did they conspire to basically gun him down? Or three, was it an inside job carried out by his former brothers in the Nation of Islam?
You could say yes to all three of those questions pertaining that as told in the documentary. I'll give you a little facts. I'm a little spoiler alert. Again, if you haven't seen the documentary, stop the tape, go watch the documentary, and come back.
Just right off the bat, though, before you really dive into which of these three is sort of reigniting this conversation, which is the most controversial of these?
All three of them.
Yeah.
From the documentary, all three of them.
Okay.
The first question, FBI. What was the question?
The FBI was behind the assassination.
It come to find out the FBI had been trailing Malcolm X and keeping a file open on Malcolm X since 1955.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, it's not surprising at all.
At all, actually.
Yeah, they were following him around. They had undercover FBI agents within the Nation of Islam. Actually, the National Secretary at the time of the Nation of Islam, God, let me bring up his name, Jesus. I had his name and then I lost it.
Who are you looking for?
The National Secretary of the Nation of Islam at the time, Malcolm X was there. I don't want to say John Ali, but the National Secretary at the time, another known face in the Nation of Islam, was an FBI informant.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, he was an FBI informant. Actually, the day of Malcolm X's assassination, in the crowd were 9 FBI informants. Which during the trial of the 3 assassins that they caught, none of these FBI informants were brought in as witnesses.
So here, before we get into who killed him, can you just sort of talk about how he was killed?
Yeah.
Where did it happen?
It happened at the Audubon Ballroom in New York City on February 21st, 1965. He was preparing an address for his organization, the OAAU, when this was a Sunday morning. And there were 400 people in the audience, and one of the audience members yelled, "Nigga, get your hands out my pocket." As Malcolm's bodyguards had tried to quell the disturbance, which this is actually not on tape, but on tape, but not audio tape. It was on audio tape. You hear Malcolm saying, brother, chill. A man rushed forward and shot him once in the chest with a sawed-off shotgun, and 2 other men charged the stage firing semi-automatic handguns.
With a sawed-off shotgun?
Someone
Not
said,
even
scream.
A fucking handgun?
Yeah, this is how it went. Someone screamed, "Nigga, get your hand out my pocket." There's a commotion between 2 guys. One throws a smoke bomb on the floor, which sends the security over to them. And then, when the security's dealing with them, a guy from the other side of the audience rushes up to the stage with a sawed-off shotgun, blasts Malcolm X in the chest. He falls twice. He falls down. 2 other guys, semi-automatic handguns, start shooting at him repeatedly in front of his wife and children.
So, I mean, just by its very definition, it's a conspiracy. It was more than 2 people involved.
What pretty much they convicted 3 people. What witnesses and what the documentary said, and even the one of the assassins that it caught and it admitted to his part in the assassination, there were 5 guys. 2 guys in the back, 1 guy on the side, 2 other guys on the other side of the ballroom.
This is like a mob hit. Then.
It is a mob hit.
Yeah.
It's a mob hit without the mob, but it's a hit.
Oh.
So that's the assassination right there. He's pronounced dead. Malcolm X pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m. Shortly after arriving at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, which was down the street from the hospital. So after the assassination, the audience ended up catching one of the assassins and beating the crap out of him. There's video of it. They're beating the crap out of him. The police ended up taking away. That's Thelbridge Hare, who first denied it, then admitted, like, yeah, I was one of the assassins, but said repeatedly that the other two, Thomas 15X Johnson and Thomas Hager, were not there. They were not. He ended up naming the 5 people, the 4 other people that he was with that did the assassination. He named them by name, and we finally got the names of the assassins. Mainly the person who held the shotgun, because they said the New York Police Department's report that said Thomas Johnson was the one who fired the first shots with the shotgun. Thelbridge Hare and other people in the audience had said that no, Thomas Johnson was not there at all. And come to find out, he was not there at all.
I mean, this is 1965. Like, fingerprint evidence was used, right?
Fingerprint evidence was used. They got it on...
Like, forensics was a thing. I mean, it was in its very infancy, but it was a thing.
Yeah.
It's not NCIS, but...
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No. They had it on Thelbridge Hare. They had no evidence on Thomas Johnson and... Actually, his name is Norman Butler. Excuse me.
They needed Abby Shudo from NCIS.
Yes. They would have solved everything.
Yeah, that's another thing, is the people who were doing the investigation, New York Police Department, didn't care. They didn't give a shit. They hated Malcolm X.
So then, what was the nationality of all the assassins? Because they're very...
Black.
Okay, because I was going to say, they're very different theories. So if it's like the Nation of Islam, ethnicity would have been one thing. If it was FBI, probably Caucasian. If it was like a hate crime, probably Caucasian.
Well, the thing is, like, when you're talking about the FBI, they would never involve themselves in a way that you would.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, this was outsourced.
Okay, so yeah.
No, like the FBI, when they do stuff like that, they pay people.
Yeah, they paid informants. Like even the New York Police Department had paid informants and New York police officers involved in it. Malcolm X's main security guard, come to find out, who was literally in the front, because Malcolm X was on stage, and literally on the down below the stage was his main security guard. Come to find out, he was an undercover New York police officer who was there to just survey Malcolm X, not to do anything else, just to pretend like he's his friend and survey Malcolm X.
These dudes are like the Oprah of FBI. Yeah. You get an undercover.
You get an undercover. You get an undercover. Yeah, but that's how dangerous they thought he really was.
I mean, to be fair, in the eyes of the FBI, I could see why Malcolm X might have presented a danger, not by himself, but by inspiring others to maybe commit crimes against...
Not even crimes, it's to stand up and create rebellion. And even going to the FBI's file, is to open rebellion. Oh, the National Secretary's name for the Nation of Islam was John Ali. I was right. I was thinking John Ali. It is John Ali.
When did he, this knowledge I know from Denzel Washington movie about Malcolm. When did he go to Africa?
Oh, when he went to Mecca to make a pilgrimage to Mecca, 64.
Okay, so this was right around the time he was like...
This is a year. This is almost a year later after he comes out from Mecca, becomes a Sunni Muslim.
Okay. After he got kicked out by the Nation of Islam, or before?
After. And he left the Nation of Islam. He wasn't kicked out.
So essentially, sort of filling you in on this as well, he... More or less, Malcolm X left like a very angry person. He had like a whole thing in Mecca and he visited parts of Africa and came back with more like a message of peace. And this was right before he was killed. he sort of shed a lot of his militant ideologies.
Well,